Hey everybody, it's Wednesday. The witches are here. The witches are here. Grab your goat, grab a wand, and grab something to drink and hold on tight. Because we are the Witches Movie Coven. We are witches, real witches, talking about witches, real and fake, in movies. Yes, movies. My name is Patti Negri. I'm one of your hosts. You might recognize me, and I don't know what is making that sound in my house. I do not know what is making that sound, but I'm assuming it's going to stop really soon, or I will mute. You might know me from Witching Hour, my podcast, from Ghost Adventures, from Overnight, from Sam and Colby, from YouTube, from Bathroom Walls across America. But let me pass you on to my beautiful co-host, starting with the fair-haired and wonderful Jason Mankey.
I am Jason Mankey. I rule the shelves at Barnes & Noble. 10 books and counting. So good to be back on the show tonight.
And Heather Greene.
Hi, I am Heather Greene. I'm the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, and I am currently in Minneapolis in a hotel, so I don't have a copy of my book to show off. I am an author. I am an editor at Llewellyn Worldwide, and I am also a journalist in the mainstream media covering all things occult and witchy. And I'm very happy to be here with my coven tonight, Wednesday night.
Thank you. And we have two very special and regular guests for us. Let's start out with Jenny C. Bell.
Hi, I am Jenny C. Bell, a beloved substitute teacher of the Movie Coven. I am the author of 2 books, but I just signed a deal for the 3rd, so I'm slowly catching up to Jason.
Yay!
That's
gonna have to increase the output.
You are.
And last, and we're gonna have to add more fingers, you guys. Last and never least, the wonderful Scarlett Amaris.
Hi, I'm Scarlett Amaris. I am a screen and television writer. I've only written 3 books and like a couple anthologies. So like I've got a long time to catch up with Jason. I also am a mythologist and I do a lot of lecturing on various deities. And that's about it for me.
Thank you so much. Well, Richard-Lael is not here today, and our beloved Courtney is not here today. Now, we didn't know who was going to do the basic synopsis. I put one together, but Jenny Bell also put one together. And since I've got a weird sound that I'm going to find, I'm going to pass you on to Jenny Silvell, just in case you didn't see the movie, which I haven't even announced yet. Something Wicked This Way Comes. A Ray Bradbury movie from 1983. Hopefully you watched it. I just watched it for the first time last night. Anyway, Jenny C, I'm going to mute myself and look for whatever giant cicada bug is in my office.
Okay, so I wrote this with my 10-year-old son, so I have to give Zach credit. Okay, so Disney's 1983 Something Wicked This Way Comes is a movie based on a book by Ray Bradbury, and he also wrote the manuscript for the film. The movie takes place in any small town in the U.S. in the fall around 1930-ish. It was very unclear to me the time frame. It follows an elderly dad with a failing heart and his own guilt of not being strong enough for his son, as well as his son Will and his friend Jim. Jim's dad is away on travel permanently. The town is filled with people who want and fantasize about more than what they have. And many of these fantasies coincidentally revolve around the 7 deadly sins. And then that's when Dark's Pandemonium Carnival rolls into town. And the people are enthralled by the carnival. The Dark's henchmen, Dark himself, and the ever-changing Witch. They are autumn people who come to feed off of the people's wishes and trap them in the carnival. Eventually, there is a library showdown, which I've not seen many movies that have a library showdown, and I feel like there needs to be more, and a chance for the elderly father to redeem himself. And that is all.
We lost our host.
I know, I saw.
I think she's still searching for that cicada.
I think she got it. I think she got the cicada.
No, I didn't get it. It's coming from above my ceiling.
Oh
Something
no.
wicked
gone?
this way comes. It is so loud. My cat can't stand it. The dog's outside. It's either a light bulb.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is unbelievably loud in here.
Or an alarm, like a fire alarm that's going dead.
But it isn't the fire alarm. The fire alarm sounds very different. It's a monster in the mouth. I'm going to keep muted. So I am just somebody else start. I'm going to keep searching. I apologize wholeheartedly, and that was fabulous, Jenny C. Bill. But Heather, I'm going to mute. I apologize. I can't hear myself. Heather, is there 5 more things people need to know about this wonderful film?
No, someone else. No, just kidding. I do have.
Oh yeah,
I don't have a scarf here, Heather. You have to do it.
I got my scarf. So yes, I've got some interesting things, and some of it we can expand on and talk more about if we feel like. So first of all, 1983. This film came out, as Jenny pointed out. It was directed by Jack Clayton, and the screenplay was written by Ray Bradbury himself, and I'll talk a little bit more about him in a second. It had a huge budget, and it was a huge flop. It made $8 million out of the $20 million budget. However, it has since become a cult film that people do remember and considered a Disney classic. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Disney and this period of time a little bit later. The book is number 2. It is based on a Ray Bradbury book published in 1962. There's, I guess, the cover of it. I don't know if it's the original cover, but it is based on a 1962 Ray Bradbury novel. And again, he himself wrote the screenplay for this. He died in 2012, so he was alive for quite some time after this. I got to put my dude down here. Ray Bradbury. Now, just before I talk about Ray Bradbury, I want to point out that this was originally a short story that was then produced as a screenplay in 1958, meant for G. Kelly, but they didn't pick it up. And so it sat and languished until the 1970s. It went through some discussions, some possibilities. Finally, Disney picked it up in the 1980s, early 1980s. However, Ray Bradbury is a familiar name to many of us, and I'm sure we can all raise our hand because we've all read, even if you haven't read this one, you've read one of his books. And the most common one he's known for that almost everybody reads because high schools force you to is Fahrenheit 451. Who's read that? Coven, raise of hands.
I have.
To read it. Who was forced to read? You've read at least a piece of Fahrenheit 451. One of my children hated the book so much, she turned it into an art piece, ripping the book apart, which is quite ironic considering what it's about. He also wrote The Martian Chronicles, Dandelion Wine, Illustrated Man, The Halloween Tree, and I Sing the Body Electric, amongst a lot of other films. I have only read 451. So I'm sure there's other. Yes, you know what? There's only so much time in a day there, Scarlett.
Like, how can you not read The Halloween Tree? Oh my God.
I haven't. I am not.
Read The Homecoming.
I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not a big fiction reader. Like, I love nonfiction. I'm not a fiction reader. So I read. I consider myself well read, but I have not read a whole lot of Ray Bradbury. His writings, however, are definitely in the realm of Lovecraft, Poe, Orwell. He kind of mixes a whole bunch of stuff up, and a lot of it definitely teeters on the work that we do here. So it's really very interesting. Let's move on to a little bit more of the origins of this. Something Wicked This Way Comes. I'm sure most of us have recognized that this quote is a Shakespeare quote. And it comes from Macbeth, Act 4, Scene 1, which is one of the most famous scenes of Macbeth, of course, the double toil trouble scene. The actual quote comes right before Macbeth arrives, after the witches go through their whole double toil trouble, cauldron bubble, et cetera, et cetera. And then at the end, they say, something wicked this way comes, which comes right before Macbeth arrives. So it's definitely a harbinger of what's to come in the actual play. So that's a really nice thing. The other interesting thing about it is there is a Charmed episode called Something Wicked This Way Comes. Something Wicca
Wicca.
This
Wow.
Way Comes from the
How
late
clever.
90s. How clever. Of course, it's the
Whoa.
90s. Yes. So, of course, it's the 90s when Wicca was starting to hit pop culture and they used that. So that's an interesting piece. So whether Macbeth is one of the most influential pieces of literature on the representation of witchcraft in our pop culture currently, but whether that came from the movie, Ray Bradbury, or Macbeth in terms of Charmed, who knows which one came first in their mind and inspiration. So let's talk about some of the actors. I'm only going to do a couple of them that are important or at least notable for us here because I don't want to take all of our time. But we have, of course, Jason Robards. I'm sure many of us of a certain age recognize that face for sure. I just found out he was married to Lauren Bacall. I had no idea that he was married to Lauren Bacall. I was like, whoa, what's that?
Whoa.
He died in 2000. He is most famous for All the President's Men, probably Once Upon a Time in the West. He was in a ton of Western films and a lot of stuff. He was with Hollywood for a very long time. We haven't seen him yet. I don't think we've brought him up in a movie yet. Next, I will mention Jonathan Pryce, Mr. Dark. I am a huge Jonathan Pryce fan, to be quite honest. If you haven't seen him in Two Popes, you must watch him. He is a brilliant actor in that. He also was Game of Thrones. We haven't discussed Game of Thrones here, but he was in Game of Thrones. He was the priest, marched Cersei down the thing saying, down the street saying, shame, shame, shame. He was in Glengarry Glen Ross, Penguin Lessons, Evita, Brazil, a ton of things. He's all over the place. And
Pirates
I, again,
of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean. There was a ton of films. We could keep going. He's brilliant. I'm sure we all have mentions, films that we can mention where he is in. I did not remember he was in this film.
This is one of his first roles.
Yeah. I had no way. I forgot it was him. I mean, I literally forgot because I think of him as an older gentleman doing older roles more recently. Diane Ladd, who died in 2025, a name that many people know. Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, Rambling Rose. She was in a bunch of stuff at this time. She was also National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. If you have not seen that, that is one of my regular holiday movies that I must watch in December. A Wild at Heart. So she is another, was a Hollywood feature at that time. And then one more, Pam Grier. Pam Grier was a face known to the blaxploitation era of 1970s. Black Mama, Night Mama, Sheba Baby, Foxy Brown. She was in a number of those. She also more recently, or not quite recently, was in Jackie Brown. You may have seen her in that one. Of course, here she is, the Dust Witch. And I could talk more about her role, and I do in my book talk about her role in the exploitation of Black and brown bodies in representation of witchcraft during this era. However, I'm going to move to another topic, dark Disney. That's my spooky voice. So this is interesting because I'm sure everybody who has ever watched Disney films will have a dark Disney film they love. And I think that's really a fun conversation. And I actually was in a panel at a conference talking specifically about dark Disney. So what happened when Disney died in 1960, the company kind of faltered in the wake of the changing times. So they didn't know, everybody thought Disney is family-friendly G films. But a lot of their films were losing market value because it was too Pollyanna for the 1960s, the 1970s as things changed. They kept doing things the same that Disney did, and it wasn't working. Tickets weren't selling, so they started to do films that were a little bit darker. They were doing films that were fewer animation, diving into live action. And a lot of these films were darker and they were flopping. The first Disney film to get a PG rating was The Black Hole. Who saw The Black Hole? Anyone? Jason? I just figured Jason saw it. No reaction.
Of
So
course.
that
It's
was
great.
great. Okay, I knew you had seen
Yeah,
it.
I love the
1979.
black hole.
You and two others. In 1979, it was the first film to get a PG rating. It was a flop. Other films were very dark. Escape from Witch Mountain and its sequel, and they kept doing these kind of darker films. If you think we reviewed Black Cauldron, 1985, all this stuff was during Disney's difficult period before they were able to revitalize it by 19. The interesting thing about Dark Disney, that in 1984 is when, just after this film, is when we saw PG-13 come in. And at the same time, Disney in 1984 formed Touchstone Pictures. Touchstone Pictures was supposed to help because they were doing so poorly with their live action kind of darker films with the Disney brand. They filmed Touchstone to sort of start doing things like this, meant for more mature audiences that were no longer connected to the Disney brand, hoping that would help. It helped a little bit. Anyway, Dark Disney can be Black Cauldron, Black Hole, Escape from Witch Mountain, Return to Oz. I think we talked about that one here at some point. The Watcher in the Wood. Does anyone remember that one?
I do. I love that film.
We love these films, but they were not well. They did not do well for Disney at all. Dragon Slayer, even Tron was another flop at this period of time. It was supposed to do well, and it did not. So Disney has these dark films, and there's other ones that are outside of this period, but there's a ton of them, and this film falls into the dark Disney category. Too dark for children and for the Disney brand that everyone expected at this time. And not dark enough to be a true horror film, to fit into that category, to fit into the PG-13, which didn't exist yet, or to the horror R films. So, and there was a lot of conflict in production. Disney was fighting the director and the writers of how dark to make it. Disney needed to make it fit. They wanted to make it more darker, more horror. And you wound up with what we have today, something in between that did not succeed ultimately. So that's my story on Dark Disney. And it's a really fun topic because a lot of the movies we can look back and love today because they were part of our childhood. There's Watcher in the Woods. That's a creepy picture. So there's a lot of them we love, especially if we grew up during that time or were watching them, but they were not successful, but yet they have followings, cult followings today. So that is my 5 things to think about. I can talk about Pam Grier if we want to later. I will pass it off to Patti and the buzzing cicada.
All right, prepare yourselves.
It is almost deafening now. I'm going to have to leave, so I don't really want to put you all through this. I'm going to see if I can go somewhere else, but I kind of worried about leaving this room unstaffed. But Jason, will you take over or something for a few minutes and guide the room while I have a nervous breakdown?
We got it. We're going to be okay.
I'm going to mute myself.
As we mute Patti, everyone whisper a little spell for her right now that the cicada infestation will be solved shortly. So we're going to start with Sarah. What are your initial thoughts on Something Wicked This Way Comes?
Did you say Sarah?
I did, because was not ready to do this. That is Scarlett. And boom, boom.
I was sitting here being very polite, going, "Who's Sarah?"
The cicadas are in my brain. The cicadas are in my brain now, too. Holy crap.
I actually have a particular love for this movie. I am a huge Ray Bradbury fan, and there's like a lovely Americana-ness to Ray Bradbury's writing that I've always really loved, like in Dandelion Wine or any of the short stories in October Country. There's a line that this movie toes that is incredibly difficult to to do that he does really well. And it's that sweet loss of innocence, and yet this kind of very adult, creepy characters and themes. You know, it's these boys are going into, they're going into adulthood. You know, like they're making that transition, and I love Mr. Dark and his terrible, phantasmagorical, all of the creepy people that he has around them. I'm very, very amused at the fact that I know that at one time Sam Peckinpah was attached to direct this, which I just cannot. If you know who Sam Peckinpah is, like I cannot see that.
I agree.
And
Who is Sam Peckinpah?
Oh my God!
Oh my God! The Wild Bunch. You got to watch The Wild Bunch.
Yeah, I mean
that I know.
Okay, well, Sam Peckinpah, and I mean, he was one of the most notorious directors in Hollywood for a very long time, and lived a very hard life. Brilliant director, maybe not such a brilliant human being sometimes. But he was attached to direct, and Peter O'Toole was supposed to be Mr. Dark, which I can't even imagine how volatile that combination would have been. That would have been a completely different movie. But there's a certain tone to this movie that I think, like I said, is really kind of, it toes the line that's incredibly difficult, and I think it does it well. I don't think that the script always works, and I think it's really unfortunate that they had another writer go over Ray Bradbury's script and not tell him, which I can just see the executive like, yeah, sure, like let's Disney this up a little bit. And and it had a lot of problems, and they had to change the composers at the very end, and they also had some CGI effects, which it would have been the first use of CGI that they cut out. And the first movie that they cut together didn't test well. And so then they had to go reshoot a bunch of things. And that's why sometimes the kids look like they're different ages. It definitely suffers from a lot of things. But I think as far as dark Disney goes, that it's the best of its time. And Ray Bradbury even said it was a passable film. But it with me, it grows on me with age. I didn't particularly love it when it came out, but I also lived by a drive-in movie theater, so I got to see all those films at the drive-in. So that's like a beloved, cherished memory for me. That's why I have such a love for them. But I think that this is the one that stands the test of time, and I can understand why it has that cult following, because there's just something eternally creepy about it. And it's a coming-of-age story, whether it, it wants to be acknowledged or not.
When I was younger, we used to have movies we would watch at school assemblies, and they were often Disney movies, and you would get excited as a kid when you saw like the Disney logo come up, and then the movie would start, and it wouldn't be Snow White or Pinocchio or Cinderella or Robin Hood or Jungle Book. Instead, it would be one of these 60s, 70s, early 80s live action Disney films, and all of the children in the auditorium would just groan. I remember once it was Escape from Witch Mountain, and I remember once, I wasn't at school, but this movie had started on television, and I was excited because I thought it was something cool from Disney, and it was a live action. I have never, with the exception of The Black Hole, because I don't think I knew better as a child, I almost revile all of these films, and I'm just going to get that out right now. They just don't work for me. They're not scary, and they're not kiddie enough, and they just kind of inhabit this strange space where a lot of people just aren't happy. Though I am going to be despised in the comments tonight because of this, and then I will just blame it more on cicada brain, which is going to be my excuse throughout the entire show. Jenny, what do you think about this film?
Well, I've never seen it before. I'm a big fan of Return to Oz. That's my dark Disney. I like love that movie. I would show it in my classroom to my middle schoolers, and they would just be like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, guys, it's a Disney film. And they'd watch it and they'd be like, what are you showing us? Like, it's so disturbing. And so I was like open to this. But yeah, like you, Jason, I'm watching, I'm like, oh, it seems like a kid's movie. I could see kind of where like Disney borrowed for Halloween Town. I'm like, I'm seeing parts of this, like even shot for shot. I'm like, oh, I'm seeing Halloween Town here. And then we get to the belly dancer scene. I was like, wait, I thought this was a kid's movie.
Yes.
A little turn, and I was like, this is kind of weird. And then I needed to finish it today. I started it last night, and my 10-year-old's like, can I watch it with you? I was like, yeah, let's see what you think. And he liked it. So maybe preteen is the right age group, because it's not really for little kids, and adults it's kind of like no. But yeah, I liked it because I like carnivals. I'm scared of carnivals. They scare me, but I want to go. There's like this whole carnival thing, and so I really liked the dark character. I was like, I love him. Like, I want to be him for Halloween. I was already planning it. And I loved like everything about him, down to his like Colonel Sanders tie. I was like, I'm here for him. No matter what happens, like, he's the best, and I'm gonna walk away with him. And I really loved Pam Grier, and I was like, oh my, that's the only person I recognize. As soon as we're watching, I'm like, is that Pam Grier? You know, and then like looking it up, and loved her in the gold outfit. So is it like amazing? Absolutely not. But were my expectations that it would be? No. My expectations, like, is it entertaining? Yeah. Is it interesting? For sure. And then watching it, I realized my daughter and I both read this very popular romantasy series called Carnival. And I realized that the author was heavily inspired by Ray Bradbury, because in the book, it's all about a carnival that does more than it should. And there's a guy named Legend, and he dresses just like Dark. And then there's even a man with moving tattoos, like the Illustrated Man.
Yeah.
And so it was like, wow, this author really was inspired by this. And then she's like, now I want to watch the movie, because she read all those books with me. So I feel like it's probably more entrenched or more inspiring than we realize. But yeah, it was entertaining. You know, that's all I expected, and I got that.
And if you want to be Mr. Dark, read the book, because there are some great descriptions of him in the book.
Yes.
I found Jonathan. Oh, go ahead, Heather.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know Jonathan Pryce as an actor so well. It's so weird to see him in this role, because his voice is so distinct, and I know it so well. And also, he looks like Terrence Stamp there. And so it really confused me while I was watching the whole movie. I just don't think of him as menacing like that.
No. So I watched this movie as a kid and loved it. I did like a lot of the dark Disney, and I did enjoy a lot of, but I was very much a Disney girl, and I did enjoy some of the live action films they were doing. He showed Cat from Outer Space up there a few minutes ago, and I loved that movie as a kid. I will fully admit that to y'all. So, you know, this was what tells you how close we all are. I loved Escape to Witch Mountain when I was a kid. I did not like Black Hole. I did not like some of the other ones, but I watched them all. And I did like this one as a kid. Watching it now, I just for entertainment and not looking at it as a film historian, I did still enjoy it. I didn't have a problem with Jonathan Pryce at all. I totally forgot that was him. I thought some parts of it were filmed really nicely. I thought some of the story was told really nicely for what it was doing. I did not like the way it was filmed at the end. I think they could have done a better job at the end, the way it rushed it, and the way it kind of was very early 80s, 70s at the end. I did not like that at all. But what I would like to see it done again. I would like to see someone film this again without Disney stepping in to try to make it a PGG Disney. I'd like to see it done as a horror film. I would like to see the one child Nightshade actually stay on and go. If it was a horror film done today, that is what would happen. he'd save his own child, but then the other child would wind up going off, and the demon creatures, the autumn people, would wind up going away, but surviving. That's the movie that would happen today if the ending was, whether that's Ray Bradbury's intention or not. That's how I imagine the ending to be. I thought it was, again, Disney screwed it up in trying to fit this story into a marketing device, because they were trying to increase ticket sales in a very difficult time. So unfortunately, I think Scarlett pointed out all of the trouble they were having back and forth. And when a film goes back and forth that many times, and overwrites and producers getting involved, it's not a good thing. So, yeah, I agree. Sam Peckinpah, no. I was like,
it's so interesting.
well, why him? So I'm glad he didn't do it, but Disney was really struggling at this period of time. And I actually I wrote a whole chapter for my master's thesis on this period of time in Disney's history, and the struggles and the numbers and the financials that they were going through, and the desperation they were trying to meet and find their audience. First after Disney died, and then after the aging of all their animators, and with the changing of the Cultural Revolution. So this is sort of a victim of that. I still like it. I still enjoy parts of it. Pam Grier is fantastic, but I didn't like the ending, and I would love to see it redone again. I would love to see it done well. So that's my piece. Patti and the cicadas?
Oof.
I guess we'll pass it.
It's not good. I have 2 men in here on ladders. Right now, it's getting louder. I turned the lights off. It did not stop. They're unplugging on ladders now. I think I am a lost cause for this film that I had so much to say about. I'm causing. I think I'm causing. Yeah. It's still happening, and it sounds like it's in the ceiling, huh? I think I am more of a distraction. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to leave and leave it in your fine hands. I am wands way up on this. I'll tell you all about it next week when I can actually hear myself talking. I don't know I've never had anything like this. Something wicked this way comes as my whole light falling down. Okay, bye you guys. I'm sorry. Bye. I don't know.
Something wicked
Bye.
came into Patty's house.
Yeah. I wonder if Bella had something to do with this.
Right.
Well, here we are.
I did read that they're looking to remake this film.
I would love that.
I think it was Seth Graham Houston. Was that right, Scarlett? You probably
know. I saw that. It's weird because it's like a coming of age in a horror story is a very tricky line to toe. And the demographic of those 2 young boys, usually today you would want to, everybody wants 20 something. Nobody wants that age. So we'll see what's done with it.
They did do Stranger Things.
Yeah, yes. That's true. No, I know. I'm just telling you what I hear all the time. Yeah. what gets said back to me constantly. But I think that, more, some of Bradbury's been adapted quite well. Fahrenheit 451, for sure. But it's a really interesting story. It has a distinctive flavor that I feel like if you could get that with a really good DP and a good writer and get that flavor on film, you'd have something that was really enigmatic and very memorable. So yeah, I agree with you, I think. And I did see that but they're not that far into it. Like they've got a little bit of cast attached, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. But it's definitely it's just waiting. I don't know who has the rights to all of Bradbury's stuff, but he's got a huge trove of fiction to pull from. He really was one of our best fantasy and horror writers. And he even had his own series. I don't know if you remember the television series, Ray Bradbury Presents. He would be in his office with all his cool little curio thing and his typewriter. And then they would go into one of his stories. He was beloved. He was a friend of mine, Amy Wallace, who was an author, he was her godfather, and I was always so disappointed I never got to meet him before he passed on. But yeah, it would be very curious to see what happens with it.
As I've admitted, I didn't particularly care for this film a whole lot, but I do think there's a great story here. It just wasn't told very well. And I'll admit, while I was watching it, I found myself confused in places. Who is the homeless lightning rod salesman? Why are the children talking to this weird man? This would never happen. It was just sort of things like that, and it kind of moved from scene to scene, and some of the scenes were more uncomfortable than others, and I never felt like it all just gelled together. And I think that was my biggest problem with the movie, which is why I think a sequel or a remake might be the way to go, because I think we would get some more depth for the characters. Like the townspeople were so cliched, and you didn't spend enough time with them to really care about them at all. Oh, you turned into an 8-year-old. Great, I guess. Whatever. And then you want to go do something else.
Yeah.
At parts, I kept thinking, oh, this is like the dark version of the musical A Music Man. If the Music Man was a dark horror, this is that. But I don't know if anybody noticed the Imperial March that kept appearing and throughout in
Yes.
the main song. The Imperial March, dun dun. Yeah, it was
dun 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 dun, dun. And it sounds like John Williams' Imperial March.
Just a little. It kept coming in and out, and this would have been very recognized at the time. Very, very recognized. And I tried to look it up if it was intentional. It may have been intentional. George Lucas did not have a connection to Disney at the time that I know of, but it was definitely sampled in there, most assuredly, and was definitely meant to invoke fear and creepiness. So I was like, oh yeah, that's the Imperial March right there. And there it is again. Oh, wait. And there it is again. So it was an intentional marker, I believe.
And James Horner's a great composer who composed the score. He's done some really great work, and he's usually not somebody who's derivative of others.
It may have been a nod, and I think it might be a deep dive to be able to find out if they had done that on purpose or not. I didn't have the time to dive in, but it is recognizable. It's very, very recognizable.
He also did that score very quickly. Like that was kind of at the 11th hour where they decided, I haven't heard the original score. I just realized it's on YouTube. So I'm going to go listen to it later. But it was like the 11th hour where they were like, oh, this is too dark for our audience. Like we need to have, and it makes sense. Like you can't, that's what James Horner does so well, is that he can give you those creepy, dreadful moments and yet have that kind of like heartfeltness when you need it. He's really a master of that. And he has he's done a lot of great movies.
I'd like to hear about Pam Grier. I know, Heather, you said you were going to talk about her, because the women in the movie were interesting. The one boy whose father left, is that Jim, his mother, at one point when he gets home, she's like in the bed in like this feathery outfit and is like, take care of yourself. That was such a strange moment. And I was like, why is this here? Like, what are we supposed to like learn about her? What are we saying about her? It just seemed like so vivid. She's like Miss Piggy, basically, in like a whole setup on her bed. And I'm like, what? I found that strange. So
and then he comes home and his mom is dancing with an unknown man in the living room. I have some ideas about her work, but I don't want to speculate too much. But but it confused me a lot while I was watching it.
So in the book, it was like the boy understands that his father is never coming home. Like he was holding on to this hope that one day, and that just kills all hope within the child. That's seeing his mother dance with another man in the room.
That's a coming of age. It's like that's his coming of age, and the other boy is realizing his father's mortality.
Yeah,
would be his coming of age. Okay.
Most male coming of age stories do have to have it's a reconciliation with their father figure in their life. So that would make sense that this on a small scale, not on the epic scale of Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, but that makes sense there. I don't think the women in this film are particularly powerful. I didn't do an
Yes.
I didn't do an analysis of the women in this film, but Pam Grier features in my book because she is a Black woman. And it is sometime in the early 1970s where you start to see Black women appear as witches, but it's always a negative witch. It's always an evil witch. And this is very different from the Tituba, which appears early in Hollywood films. But in the 70s and 80s, you get a lot of, you get some witches. You start to get witches represented as more than just a white woman. You start to see Black women, but they're all negative. And Pam Grier is the first. No, she's the second because there's a TV character. She's the first, I believe, representation of a Black woman playing a witch that is a particular character rather than just a group in a coven. And that continues. She represents both evil witchcraft and as well as exotic sexuality. And that continues through the 80s into the early 90s. And we start to see that again in the 90s where Black and brown bodies are used to represent exotic evil sexuality and witchcraft all combined. And this is the beginnings of that. And again, it's Disney. Who would have thought they would have been one of the first to do this? There is a Tabitha. The show was in the late 70s, a spinoff on Bewitched. You had an episode called Black Magic. I think it was called Black Magic. It was something like that, where you have a Black woman playing a witch, Tabitha's friend, and she turns out to be evil and all that stuff. So that's one of the first ones. But here you have Pam Grier playing that role. And then you start to see it later again in the late 80s in the Satanic Panic, the similar type of character. So it's a derivative of that, sort of pulling from that idea that a Black woman or a Black or brown body is a representation of evil sexualized witchcraft. And that's what we're talking about here. And I do talk about that othering in my book, if you're interested in reading more.
Do you know how Pam Grier got cast in this film? It just seems like such an odd choice to me. Not that I'm upset with the choice because she's an iconic figure, but it's such a small role. And I think she says maybe 8 lines during the whole film. I mean, she doesn't talk a whole lot.
Not at all. It is an interesting choice considering her history prior to this in Disney, but I am not sure. I did not do a deep dive on her and her casting in this. It may have been she's been available. Again, they wanted to have a darker skinned figure for this sexualized feminine character. Who knows? I don't have the answer to that question, but it's a good question. Definitely how and why did she take this? And why would Disney take Pam Grier in a film that they were trying to represent with their Disney brand? It's very interesting.
Yeah, I thought go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I thought, like, knowing nothing, that she was cast because she's ambiguous in her ethnicity. Because at one point she seems Romani as the fortune teller. Then there's the Arabic belly dancers, and then that one guy, his dream is Cuban women, and she's with him. And so I thought she was cast because she's like, she could play all the parts in their mind.
Most certainly. I'm sure that's what it is. But it still it doesn't read necessarily as the same as she does in the blaxploitation films with Who You Look for Her There or in Jackie Brown. But she definitely reads as exotic. And that's the key piece. And that's what they're playing on. And that's what they continue to play on into the 80s with exotic accents. A lot of those witch characters, Black Magic Woman, the other one escapes me, a number of them, and Evil Stepmother. It's the same concept, which is problematic in many ways. So not as problematic as some of the earlier representations, but it's problematic for sure.
It's interesting. In the book, she's a lot more malefic. She's not sexualized. In the book, she has if I remember, it's like a hot air balloon that goes like from house to house, and she's figuring out what it is that the people really want so that they can use, that they can tempt people with this. Like, she's getting the stuff from people's dreams. So she has a much more kind of malefic witch-like presence. Whereas in the movie, she's much more heavily sexualized and becoming everybody's fantasy. And that's like the big change. And I think they needed somebody who could do that.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
On a more positive note, am I the only one who thought that these were some of the worst special effects I've ever
No.
seen
It was
in a major
20
motion
days.
picture?
Sure.
My
It was-
son, yeah, that's his biggest like protest with older movies. He looks at me during the first special effect. He looked at me and he was like, ah. Like he didn't even have words. He's like, this is terrible. I said, yes, it is.
I definitely think the Greene thing had Ouija shark vibes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Definitely that Greene stuff. I was waiting for the Ouija shark to come out of them.
But I will say this, that in the spider scene, which is incredibly scary, that a bunch of those spiders were real. So you have a bunch of fake ones, but yes, a bunch of those are real tarantulas. And like those kids were absolutely, you know, terrified and like scarred by this. Like you could not do that in this day and age. That would not happen. But yeah, no, it was a mixture of both. And that scene is not in the book. But I think that I think that scene's scary. I think it's a very effective scene.
For sure.
I would disagree, but it's a joke I'm saving for later in the show. It's really hard when you have to write that last bit and you're like, can't give it away, can't use my jokes yet, you know. That I will say though, the last 10 minutes with all the lightning and being stabbed with the lightning, I think I laughed out loud because at the time you have Star Wars, which looks like a good movie. For whatever reason, Star Wars still has a pretty timeless look with the lack of CGI and all of that, and they just couldn't get any of this right. I mean, there's pretty decent special effects in 80s movies. This definitely was not that.
No, and I think the ending really suffers.
Yeah.
You know, you can
For
tell
sure.
where it's been reshot.
Yeah.
You know, you can tell where they came in and they shot more in that ending. The ending is terrible. The special
And the
effects
boys
are
look
terrible.
older.
Yes,
That's
the boys,
the part where the boys look older. is
they
in the
don't
ending.
match, but that ending is like where they really messed up.
Yep.
Yeah.
It felt like a cartoon at the end. And I
For
do
sure.
think that they used some cartoon over the live action in a few places. That's
It
the
felt
only
like
thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Well,
The Green Mist was like that too.
Yes.
The interesting thing about these films from this period of time in Disney is a lot of them they rushed out. They were just trying to get them off and off the production line, and it's same with Black Cauldron. It was like, done with this. We just need to get it done and off. And so this may have been one of those, and I don't know because I didn't study this in my Disney dissertation. I didn't study specifically this film, but there was a number of films during this period of time where they were like, we just need to finish this. Just do whatever you need to do to get it off the line. And so this ending really feels like that may have been the case.
Yeah, it was the whole lightning scene, and then it was just over. Because I like got up to get water, and I came back, and it was over. And I'm like, what happened?
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And then we grew up and we got to be adults, and now that movie is done. I mean, that's really how it feels, especially the weird talkover at the beginning and at the end, which I read was a narrative choice they made when they were doing all of the reshoots, which I think makes the film worse because I don't like that at all. I thought it was lazy and but again, I didn't like very much about this entire movie. So now I'm just going to tell some jokes about this movie. And a lot of you who like this movie are going to hate me when this is done. You are going to be so angry with me. And I fear for my life. The film's title, Something Wicked This Way Comes, is interpreted by most people as a reference to Mr. Dark and his Dark Carnival. But let me offer a different interpretation because I'm fairly convinced that the wicked in this film are the movie's two youthful protagonists, Will Halloway and Jim Nightshade. Those two kids are freaking awful. And as the movie unfolded, I kept hoping they would get swept away by a hurricane, struck by cartoon lightning, or bitten by the world's most unthreatening tarantula infestation. Didn't scare me at all, Scarlett. But alas, spoiler alert, they make it all the way to the end of the film. And I hate it when things like that happen. When we are first introduced to Will and Jim, it's clear that they don't really like each other very much. Will begins their banter by insulting Jim, and then I think Jim reacts with violence, something he does the entire film. Note, Will isn't much better and often just tackles his friend and begins wailing on him instead of talking to him. The clear explanation to all of this is that no one else at school likes Will or Jim either, and they are forced to hang out because they have no other options. So who are Will and Jim? Let's start with Will, a spectacled young scamp who seems mostly afraid of everything and spends much of the film telling Jim not to do X, Y, or Z. I have a feeling that if Will found out that Jim was hiding a Playboy magazine between his mattress and box spring, that he would rat his friend out in about 2 seconds. We are led to believe that all of Will's problems stem from the fact that his dad is 92 years old and a librarian. But that doesn't seem fair to 92-year-old men or librarians. In one especially unpoignant scene, Will scampers up a trellis to his second-floor bedroom, imploring his father to follow him. When his 92-year-old dad defers, I think you're supposed to feel bad for Will? I just thought to myself, why doesn't this kid use the freaking stairs? And for most adults, not scampering up some railing is always the right choice, whether they are 19 or 92. And that takes us to Jim Nightshade, if that is his real name. Anyways, Jim is the rough and tumble kid. He sneaks into places he's not supposed to sneak into, and is the kind of kid that is taken to leering at scantily clad women at a young age. I sort of did those things too when I was a kid, and look how I turned out. Clearly, this is a troubled child. Much like Will, we are led to believe that Jim's problems also come from his parents. But instead of Jim's dad being 92, his father just went out for a pack of cigarettes one day and then never came back. Can you blame him? If he was my child, I would have done the same thing. Anyways, this means Jim is raised solely by his mother, whose parenting method seems to be run feral and free, my child, while I lay in bed all day and dance with strange men in our living room. Does she have a job? Maybe. Who knows? I'll let you figure it out. Most of the film is just these two unlikable children running around their weirdly, mostly deserted town at night, getting and crushing the dreams of all the people around them. Almost everything in this film wouldn't have even happened if these two awful children had just minded their own business. Mercifully, the film ends just like it began, with a voiceover from Will Halloway. Sadly, the voiceover means that both Will and Jim probably lived into the present day and are probably raising horrible children of their own.
You know, I think the criticisms are fair, Jason.
I think so
Thank
too.
you.
And you pointed out
Except
how
for the
what I thought
tarantula.
too, there's no extras. Like it's just them in the school classroom because they had detention, but there's not even like another whiff of a child. And I was like, why did they just not have the budget for extra people? I found that really strange.
I hate movies that look like nobody lives in town. And a
Yes.
lot of this movie, I felt like nobody lived in town. So on that note, wow, look at that.
The Disney villain right there.
Yeah.
Rob, credit for coming up with that picture. Much credit. So we are at the point of the show when we must vote wands up or wands down on something wicked this way comes. This is from Patti. This is her, like, she's definitely a wands up for this film. I don't think I'm surprising anybody. So wands up, wands up, wands.
Up.
Is that down?
Is
Is that up? You're up.
I'm up. I'm up because it's a like as one of you guys said. I think Scarlett said there's a nostalgia aspect of watching it that I feel. So even though it's not the greatest movie of all time for sure. Not making AFI 100.
entertaining.
We got Robert Hicks. Wands Up. We got lots of Wands Up. Yeah, it was a small town. Scared and Alone Live. Wands, meh. There we go. Meh. Tabitha, Wands Up. You all are too nice. Too nice.
I
Come
haven't
on,
seen
somebody
Wands
love
way up.
somebody love Jason. Halfway, that's better, Lisa. Thank you. Come on, I have a friend.
Going once?
Come on.
I don't have
hands
any
up.
friends.
Aw.
I'm just like these two rotten children. I have no friends.
Oh no, not that.
All right. As we begin to end our show, anybody got anything coming up? Anything on the horizon? Heather.
Well, I just finished up with Pagenicon where I got to see Jason and Patti live, which was fantastic. And I'm still in Minneapolis, but in a week I'm going to Autumn Witch Fest that starts next Friday. It's All Stays Saturday in Austin, Texas. I'm going to be there with one of our other guests, Thumper Forge, and a number of other great witches in Austin, Texas for the day. And that's next Saturday. And of course, I don't have the date in front of me. I think it's what month are we in? That's someone tell me what next Saturday is.
It will be on March 28th, or next Saturday is April 4th.
There you go. So that's when
April
it is.
4th.
April 4th in Austin, Texas. I will be there. And then 2 weeks after that, I'm going to Spirit Northwest in Portland. You can look that up. It's a 3-day festival in a hotel in Portland. So I will have the details next week on that and the dates, but I will be doing both of those. And I look forward to seeing everybody there if you can come.
What about you, Scarlett? I still feel so bad saying Sarah earlier.
I've never been called Sarah before, so that's kind of fun.
All right.
You know, I'm doing a lot of writing right now, and it looks like I've put a pitch in for a modern adaptation of the book of a movie that we did a few weeks ago, but I can't say which one, but you guys can probably guess because everybody really liked it. And somebody was like, oh, somebody should do a modern adaptation. And I was like, I wonder. So yeah, I'm going to be, I have the one sheet on it, and then I'm just waiting to see that I believe it's in public domain. So I'm going to be working on that. And then I've got another script. So I'm not going to be doing any public speaking probably for the next 2 months. I'm just going to be writing.
It's awesome.
And Jenny, what about you?
I will be with Heather at the end of April in Portland at Spirit Northwest. The first night is a movie night. So I'll be bringing my Black Phillip and probably wearing pajamas out in public because I'm a Taurus, so why wouldn't I? And then I'm teaching at that kind of little convention on spellcrafting. So I'm looking forward to that. And then other than that, I'm also writing because I have a deadline on August 3rd. So
deadlines are made to be broken. I didn't say that in front of a Llewellyn's Acquisitions person. Yeah.
No. I'm gonna report back to your editor, Jason.
We've had a talk. She already knows. I spend so much time on this show. It puts me behind with everything else. In 2 weeks, I'm going to New Orleans to meet Richard-Lael in person for the first time, which is just a fun trip for me. And then I'll be at the Florida Pagan Gathering over Beltane and the Pagan Unity Festival in Tennessee in June. Woo! 2 of my favorite little events. What is our movie next week, Heather? Do
Conjuring.
we know?
Yes, it's the last Conjuring. Conjuring 4 is next week. So join us to finally discuss the last and final installation in the Conjuring universe.
Until they make a 5th one, because this movie made so much money.
Yeah.
Conjuring 5 out of the retirement home. It's coming.
Oh, it'll definitely come.
There you go. That's the next one.
You can't keep the fictional version of the Warrens down. It will be back. Oh, and that'll be a team up. They'll fight the nun and Annabelle and a couple of other people.
Mr.
And
Dark, possibly.
Maybe.
yeah. And on that note, we've got one thing left to do. It's time to cackle.